Testing 1, 2. Testing 1, 2, 3. Hold it in your left hand.
Test one. It came up quick today. What do you think the gods are smiling? Good morning. Good morning. Good morning. Today is June 11th, Wednesday, June 11th, 2025. This is the Commissioner's weekly meeting, and I'm the chair, Eric Blank. Commissioner Gilman, are you ready to approve the consent agenda as presented and hopefully feeling a little better?
Yeah, good morning. Sorry I'm not joining you all in person, but I've been a little ill, so I don't think it would be good for anyone. But happy to see y'all, and yes, I would vote to approve the consent agenda.
You're looking better.
Thanks.
Commissioner Plant.
Thanks. I'd vote to approve the consent agenda as well.
As would I. I'm told, do we have a speaker? Ms. Glustrom. Is she live or, yep. Nope, remote. Glustrom.
In the box. Good morning, commissioners. Thank you for this opportunity. I know you have a busy week, so we'll be brief. For the record, my name is Leslie Glustrom. I've been an intervener and a participant at the Colorado Public Utilities Commission for over 20 years. And sadly, I've watched the commission and all the fancy attorneys and all the fancy expert witnesses make a lot of really expensive mistakes. So I keep showing up hoping to talk about some of the principles that hopefully will get applied to this decision making. As you probably remember, we've talked about not driving backwards into the future, spinning your chairs around and recognizing that the decisions you make need to stand the test of time, 10, 20, 30, 40, 50, sometimes more years. And I'd ask that you, when you're making those decisions, think about those depreciation times and are these investments really going to stand that test of time? Or will they either become obsolete or will they become destroyed? We'll talk about that in a second. We've also talked about paradigm shifts. I come out of science, so I have a strong interest in the history of science and how all of a sudden thinking needs to change, except for all of a sudden often takes a while. And you know you need a paradigm shift when you're starting to have a lot of pain points. In science, those pain points get shown in really convoluted kinds of calculations and explanations. In your business, of course, those pain points come with very large price tags. And, you know, we might call expensive Band-Aids, trying to keep the old system up and running. I don't need to tell you how expensive the Band-Aids are that you're all looking at. So today, the way I thought I'd talk about it, I think of this as I have to speak in parables, or to date myself, fractured fairy tales from Rocky and Bullwinkle, but I bet I don't know if anybody remembers those. But today I thought we'd talk about bad hair days. Anybody who knows me knows that I'm happiest when I'm having a bad hair day at the top of some mountain pass. But in your work, of course, a bad hair day is not a good idea. To get a visual image of what I'm trying to talk about, all you have to do is do a quick search, Google Images or whatever, and just look for power lines down. And those images I'm referring to as a bad hair day. And as we look forward into the future, we've already passed all the points on climate change that could have kept the climate moderately stable. 430 parts per million when I began, which is 20 years ago, you know, we were at 380. I mean, good. And it's going up 2, 3. My guess is it'll start going up 3, 4, 5 parts per million a year. All that extra heat will drive extreme weather in ways that we can't even begin to imagine. I believe we'll need new names for it. So as you're looking forward into the future, I would ask you to think about that and the bad combination that happens when you take really extreme weather, you know, floods, blizzards, tornadoes, bomb cyclones, and then all the things that we don't even have names for. And you mix that with wires hung on tall poles, and then you have a bad hair day. So when whoever's sitting in your seats, you know, 10, 20, 30 years from now, 40, y'all are super smart. I feel like almost everyone at the commission now gets that climate change is real. We need to reduce our emissions. Hallelujah. That was not always the case, believe me. But what I'm not seeing, maybe it's there, but I'm not seeing it, is thinking about what this changed climate is going to mean as we go forward. And I don't see that briefed deeply. Maybe it's there and I'm just missing it. We're just going to live on a completely different planet. So, you know, things might be more expensive to build up front, putting generation and storage close to load. But when you do the life cycle analysis, when you consider bad hair days, when you consider the cost of maintenance, when you consider the cost of outages for all the reasons that are going to happen, cybersecurity and everything else, putting generation much closer to load is very likely to be the better long-term solution. So I appreciate all your work. I hope you know that I say all the time, we have 3 great commissioners, and I appreciate the really hard work you all do. Thank you so very much.
Thank you, Ms. Glustrom. Let's jump to our agenda. Proceeding number 25A-0113R is Mr. Farrell. Ms. Harper.
Yes, good morning, Commissioners. I'm Alan Farrell with the Rail Transit Safety Section. I'm here today for discussion on proceeding number 25A-0113R, which, if you're ready, I will now address.
We're ready.
In March of 2025, the City and County of Denver submitted an application for an order authorizing construction of a new elevated pedestrian sidewalk above the existing road surface along the north side of the Alameda Avenue underpass, grade-separated crossings under the bridge and tracks of BNSF, or West Bridge, and under a second bridge and tracks of UPRR and RTD, or East Bridge, in Denver. Denver will pay for the construction work at the crossing. The Commission deemed the application complete and granted the application and required Denver to file a copy of the signed Construction and Maintenance Agreement, or C&M Agreement, for this project as required by Decision C25-0347 and Commission Rule 723-7-7212F by May 31st of 2025. On May 22nd, 2025, Denver filed a motion for extension of time until June 30th of 2025, in which it was stated that BNSF told Denver's contractor a C&M agreement was not needed, and that instead BNSF will be issuing the city's contractor a right of entry agreement or ROE agreement. On June 5th of 2025, Denver filed the ROE agreement that its contractor entered into with the BNSF Railway Company that will expire on September 30th of 2025. BNSF, UPRR, and RTD do not oppose the motion. Who will pay for the ongoing maintenance at the crossing as routinely covered by a C&M agreement, however, is still an issue. Staff notes that a variance on this requirement is possible if good cause is given, but staff do not find good cause in the motion as it's currently filed because the issue of ongoing maintenance is still outstanding for this new element of the crossing. And unless you have questions, I have a recommendation.
We'd welcome your recommendation.
Thank you. Staff recommends the Commission grant the motion in part, granting an extension to June 30th of 2025 to allow Denver to file the ordered C&M agreement between Denver and the railroads.
Commissioner Gilman,
I agree.
Commissioner Plant,
I also agree.
as do I.
Thank you, Commissioners.
Thank you, sir. 25A-0197CP-TA, Emerald Express Transportation. Mr. Gramlich, Mr. Foreman.
Good morning. I'm Gary Gramlich of the transportation staff, and Mr. Foreman's also here. And I'll give a brief. I always say brief. It may not be that brief, but it's a summary of this temporary authority application. It was filed by Emerald Express Transportation, Inc. on May 15th. Was noticed for the required 5 days. That expired on June the 2nd. There were 3 interventions filed. The authority requested by Emerald Express was shuttle service between points in Steamboat Springs and the Yampa Valley Airport in Hayden, and also service between Craig, Colorado, between points in Craig and also from Craig to the Yampa Valley Airport. Pursuant to 40-10.1-204, there has to be some showing of an immediate and urgent need. Interventions were filed by All Around Taxi, Alpine Taxi Limo, and Ski Town Transportation. In the application itself, the manager as support stated that Yampa Valley Regional Airport provides year-round regional commercial business transportation services, and the number of carriers serving the airport has increased in the past few years with more flights coming in, of course, mainly in the winter. And it says, for example, that Ski Town Transportation was granted authority in emergency authority in 2022, and then the full authority in 2023 to provide service between the airport and other points in Routt County. There was also a support letter filed by the airport director, Kevin Booth, who states, one of the statements he makes is that one of the interveners, Alpine Taxi Limo, or also Steamboat Express, ceased their operations at the airport as of in April 15th and hasn't restarted. He did state that there are 3 carriers that mainly provide shuttle service to the airport. Alpine Taxi carries 31% of the passengers in the past year, Ski Town 26%, and another carrier who is an interstate carrier, Storm Mountain, transported 43%. There was a support letter filed also by an individual, Matthew Jacobs of Bullfrog, Utah, which is on Lake Powell, and stated that he worked for a shuttle company and has for several winters, and does state that there are some times that they cannot provide service to every passenger that needs it. The first intervener, All Around Taxi, has only had its certificate. It was issued on May 1st, 2025, and its taxi service between points in Moffat County and to and from points in Mesa and route. So the owner states that they do have an overlap. Alpine Taxi has owned and operated its certificate since August of 2019, where it purchased it through a stock transfer. And it authorizes shuttle service between Route County and all points in the state. So it can provide service between the airport, of course, and points in Route County and also the Moffat County. It states that the intervener would be harmed by the diversion of passengers and the revenue it receives from this service. It doesn't really very directly discuss the issue of whether they are or not currently providing any service in the steamboat area. The carrier has not filed a suspension application with the PUC at this time, where it could suspend the operations for a period of time it requests in the application. The third intervener is Ski Town Transportation. Their application, which was granted in July of 23, is specifically for between the Yampa Valley Airport and the town of Steamboat Springs and the Steamboat Springs ski area, and also from the Yampa Valley Airport to and from points in Craig. So it definitely has an overlap. And the intervention filed by Ski Town states that they also don't operate at full capacity and could easily handle additional business, and makes the claim that it believes the public information supplied in the letters does not sufficiently show the immediate and urgent need. Kind of summary, the information provided by Emerald Transportation and the director of the airport do support the possible need of service, but a lot of that appears to be more in the winter season than in the current summer season. Emerald Transportation has filed a permanent application that was filed on May 19th, was noticed on May 27th. It will be on the agenda, Commissioners' Weekly meeting on July 2nd. And this time I might ask Mr. Foreman if he wants to provide any input into the application.
Thank you, Mr. Gramlich. I think you've covered everything up to this point. If I'm happy to give a recommendation, but I'm also happy to let you continue if you're comfortable.
Yours would be more legally correct, probably.
Happy to chime in. Yes. Okay. Well, considering all of that, commissioners, staff and council recommend acknowledging and granting the interventions filed by the three interveners. These interveners hold CPCNs in the geographic areas that overlap with the areas at issue in the proceeding, in the application, and thus these companies have met the standard in Rule 1401 for intervention as of right. Staff and council also recommend that the commission deny the temporary authority application. The information submitted by the applicant and the letter of support from the director of the airport, while they do support the possible need for additional passenger transportation, this need is apparently somewhat based on the assumption that one of the interventionists, interveners will not be able to provide service in that area. And while the statements provided by the applicant and the interveners may support the need for additional passenger carriers, the application does not meet the standard for showing an immediate and urgent need at this point under section 40-10.1-204 subsection 1. While while we recommend denying the application, a denial of the temporary authority does not create a presumption regarding the merits of the application for permanent authority. And the question of whether the public needs more carriers to and from the airport will be fully vetted in the permanent authority proceeding, which is currently pending before an ALJ. So that's a recommendation. I'll turn it to the commissioners here. Happy to answer any questions.
Commissioner Gelman,
I agree.
Commissioner Plant.
I also agree.
I can barely agree. If we could look at this during the sunset, I'm very uncomfortable with what we're doing here. I mean, it sounds like from the airport director, there's a shortage, and not happy to be playing this role, but I'll vote to support it. Thank you, Mr. Gramlich. Thank you, Mr. Foreman. Proceeding number 24A.
Excuse me, is this an ABC order acceptable?
Yes, an ABC order is acceptable.
Thank you.
Thanks. Proceeding number 24A-0369G.
Good morning, Commissioners. I'm Dan Greenberg of your advisory staff. As required by HB 23-1252, Public Service filed an application for approval of its Thermal Energy Network, or TEN, pilot initiative last August. The company proposed a two-phase process. In Phase 1, it proposed to identify 5 potential project sites where thermal networks could be developed. Phase 2 would entail detailed engineering design as well as community engagement to ensure local community and customer support. Project cost estimates and development timelines would be produced in Phase 2, which would end with the filing of an application for approval to begin construction on one or more of the identified projects. In its original application, the company requested approval of 1, 5 pilot project areas the company proposes for further development work, 2, authorization to move forward with detailed engineering design and community outreach needed for the development of at least 1 thermal network pilot, and 3, recovery of $7.26 million in costs associated with the detailed engineering and community outreach. And they propose to recover that through the DSMCA G rider. The company stated that it would file an application to commence construction of 1 or more pilot projects within 18 months of a decision in this proceeding. Staff, UCA, CEO, and the City and County of Denver intervened in the proceeding. The Commission voted to refer the case to an ALJ on October 9th, 2024. The case was subsequently assigned to ALJ Segev. Last February, the company filed a comprehensive settlement that was joined by all parties except CEO. This was followed in early March by settlement testimony from staff, the company, UCA, all of which supported the settlement, and CEO, which opposed it. After deliberating on the record and testimony, ALJ Segev issued recommended decision R25-0352 on May 6th of this year, approving the settlement without modification. In the recommended decision, ALJ Segev noted that even CEO supported most of the terms of in the settlement. The ALJ found that CEO's desire for backup sites to be pre-approved in this proceeding was not supported by the record, and that the settlement provision that any replacement pilot communities be presented in the company's July 2026 CHP application would allow the time necessary to reassess thermal energy network feasibility in light of any lessons learned, ensuring a more informed process before proceeding with additional investments. He also found that the $2.55 million settlement budget reflected a negotiated amount, and that the larger budget of $5.49 million advocated by CEO would not be consistent with the phased evidence-based approach embodied in the settlement agreement. The ALJ further found CEO's recommendations for additional reporting and consultation on community outreach to be unnecessary, given the provisions in the settlement requiring an interim and final reports and requiring the company to hire a multilingual community engagement consultant. Finally, the ALJ found CEO's recommendations regarding the Denver ambient loop are premature and unnecessary at this stage. The ALJ noted that the settlement agreement expressly limits the company's involvement to a collaborative and informational role without any approved cost recovery or capital investment. The CEO filed exceptions to the recommended decision on May 14th. CEO's exceptions focus on three areas. One, pre-approval of alternate pilot communities along with provision of additional budget for pilot development in those communities. Two, expansion of reporting and community engagement requirements. And three, resolution of regulatory issues that CEO perceives. Regarding the selection of alternate pilot communities, CEO asserts that the ALJ did not adequately address its concerns about the potential for a project to be untenable or the ability for public service to begin designing replacement projects in a timely manner should one of the two chosen projects need to be replaced. CEO expresses concern that without an expeditious path to identify backup communities, emission reductions from TEN pilots could be delayed for years. CEO asserts that both of the processes the settling parties have proposed for the identification of alternate communities will take excessive time, delaying actual implementation of the pilot. CEO further opposes a settlement requirement that any alternate project be in the same category as the failed project, so either a mountain community or a disproportionately impacted community. Regarding the Phase 2 budget for replacement communities, CEO takes issue with the recommended decision, suggesting that the $3 million additional budget it recommends would be consistent with the evidence-based approach that CEO proposed. It notes that the company would need to account for any unused budget from the initial projects before accessing any additional budget for the backup communities. CEO emphasizes that TENs have the potential to reduce consumer bills, excuse me, reuse existing gas infrastructure, avoid emissions from the gas system, and assist public service in avoiding stranded gas assets. Moreover, Moreover, CEO points out that some of the incremental budget it is proposing could be provided from the CHP Market Transformation Innovation Fund that the Commission has already approved in the last CHP proceeding. The second category of exceptions CEO raises has to do with reporting and consultation. CEO disagrees with the ALJ's finding that its recommendations for additional reporting are not required to ensure effective oversight at this time and could be revisited in future proceedings if needed. CEO recommends the Commission direct the company to provide project updates during the quarterly DSM stakeholder meetings and file the meeting slides in this proceeding, asserting that this will improve transparency throughout the process by helping to inform the parties and the Commission of any progress or roadblocks the company encounters throughout the design and engagement phase. CEO further asks the Commission to require the company to consult with CEO on community engagement, given CEO's experience with community engagement and the fact that it is working with the company on implementation of HB 24-1370. It asserts that coordination with CEO will improve lessons learned and increase consistency among community engagement efforts. Finally, CEO states that it has questions about how the Denver Ambient Loop project will be regulated and paid for, the impact of the project on both gas and steam utility customers, and whether or not the project is replicable. It asks the Commission to order Public Service to work with Denver and track any costs associated with Denver's Ambient Loop project so the Commission can determine cost recovery in a future proceeding. It also asks the Commission to order the company in Denver to consider the impacts to the remaining steam customers when they collaborate to explore and establish recommendations related to cost estimates, cost allocation, and cost recovery. CEO also recommends that the Commission order Public Service to work with Denver to provide responses to a number of specific questions as part of any future filing for approval of the project. These questions regard the impacts of the Ambient Loop project on remaining customers of the Denver steam system, whether the Ambient Loop project could be scaled to accommodate all steam customers, how costs for the project would be handled and who would pay them, whether the Ambient Loop project would be a regulated or unregulated service if it were built, and whether the project is replicable for other sections of the gas system. Contrary to the ALJ's findings, CEO states its belief that answers to its questions are necessary at this stage. Before proceeding to describe the settling parties' responses to CEO's exceptions, I'll note that the ALJ, in his order, ordered a shortened response time and that the company filed its responses on behalf of itself and the parties 1 day late, along with a motion for variance to allow late filed response. So before continuing, I'd like to recommend that you grant the unopposed motion to permit the 1 day late filing, and I'll pause here for your vote.
Commissioner Goman,
I agree.
Commissioner Plant.
I also agree.
As do I.
Thank you. In response to CEO's exceptions, the settling parties observed that CEO has not attempted to show how or why the ALJ erred in finding that the settlement agreement is just reasonable, and that the modifications to the settlement sought by CEO could undermine a consensus-based resolution in this proceeding. They assert that the Commission should similarly reject CEO's exceptions because, quote, there are no new grounds raised that justify or support a different result, end quote. Moreover, they contend that the CHP filing is more than sufficient to address replacement pilot needs for any infeasible pilot approved in this proceeding. Regarding CEO's proposed additional budget, the settling parties argue that the ALJ was correct in determining that the additional $3 million budget CEO proposes is not necessary or reasonable on the record of this case. The settling parties assert that the ALJ properly found that the settlement already has robust reporting requirements that resolve CEO's issues, including with the company filing 3 separate reports and robust community engagement consultant requirements. They note that CEO raises no new issues in its exceptions that require modification to the settlement. Finally, the settling parties argue that the ALJ correctly rejected CEO's arguments regarding the Denver Ambient Loop project, given that the company's involvement at this point is only in a collaborative and informational role with no approved cost recovery. They support the ALJ finding that future applications involving the Ambient Loop could address more specific requirements regarding that potential project. So the decision before you this morning is whether to uphold the recommended decision as it stands or to grant one or more of CEO's exceptions. The first of those exceptions regards specification of 2 backup communities as well as up to $1.5 million in additional budget for each of them should one or both of the proposed pilot communities fail. You can provide a recommendation on this exception or pause for your discussion.
If you could give us a recommendation, that'd be great.
Advisors are persuaded by staff's argument in the settlement testimony that having passed through the gauntlet of the company's initial screening process to be identified as the highest ranking targets for pilot communities, if one or both of the communities proposed for the pilot fails at this stage, it will be very important to understand the reasons for this failure before spending additional funds on an alternate community. Despite CEO's contention that TENs are not new technology, the reality is that it's not the novelty of the technology itself that matters, but rather its application at the neighborhood level. From the perspective of homeowners and businesses asked to participate in the pilot, this technology will be completely new and unproven. Advisors agree with staff and the ALJ that it will be crucial to learn from unsuccessful efforts in either community to avoid wasteful spending that might have similar results elsewhere. We therefore recommend upholding the recommended decision and its endorsement of settlement provisions regarding alternate communities and budget.
Commissioner Goman.
Thanks, Mr. Greenberg. Yeah, I agree with your recommendation. I mean, I'm sensitive to CEOs kind of stance. The time is of the essence of seeing more of these projects actually move forward, but I tend to agree with you and staff that it will be important to understand why a project failed so we can actually make better attempts to move forward with successful projects in the future.
Commissioner Plant.
I agree as well.
As do I.
Thank you. CEO's second category of exceptions regards the additional reporting and consultation requirements it would like the Commission to impose on the company. Again, I can provide a recommendation or pause for your deliberations.
If you could give us a recommendation, that'd be great.
While CEO's requests for additional reporting are not unreasonable, advisors question why they rise to the level of requiring that an otherwise reasonable settlement agreement be rejected. CEO is already working with the company to implement the provisions of SB 24-1570, which suggests that the 2 entities will be exchanging information on a frequent basis that is, at the very least, closely related to the subject matter of this proceeding. Advisors believe that if it finds anything amiss in the company's formal reporting on the pilot, for example, the settlement requirements, or in the process of its related SB 24-1570 interactions with the company. CEO has procedural options, both within and outside the confines of this proceeding, to make the Commission aware of its concerns. Again, advisors see no reason to upset the settlement agreement on the basis of CEO's concerns here, and recommend that you deny CEO's exceptions in this area.
Commissioner Gelman,
I agree.
Commissioner Plant,
I also agree.
as do I.
Thank you. The final decision point on this case regards CEO's requests that the company be required to track any expenditures it makes in support of the Denver Ambient Loop project and to respond to the question CEO raises about the project's implications for steam system customers' scalability, cost recovery, and regulation. Again, I can provide a recommendation or pause here for your deliberation.
If you could give us a recommendation, that'd be great.
CEO is correct that this project, should it move forward to construction and operation, raises questions about cost recovery and about implications for the existing steam system. At this point, the Ambient Loop project is at an early stage of investigation, and the company states that it is not spending any funds that ratepayers will be asked to repay. Since that is the case, any Commission directive now to track such costs would be meaningless. Moreover, the settlement explicitly states that it does not approve any cost recovery associated with the commencement of Phase 2 development work for the project. Nevertheless, the questions CEO raises regarding the Ambient Loop project are important ones. Advisors believe that the Commission should require the company to provide responses to these questions, either as a component of any relevant application filing it may make in the future, or in the event that the Denver Ambient Loop project moves forward without such application, that it file responses to these questions as an informational filing in this proceeding. Advisors recommend that in the latter case, the company be required to provide its responses to these questions no later than 120 days following the date on which a decision is made to move forward with construction of the Denver Ambient Loop project.
Commissioner Gelman,
I agree.
Commissioner Plant,
I also agree.
as do I, and I think that can be in ABC order unless there's anything else.
No, that is all. Thanks very much.
Thanks, Mr. Greenberg. Proceeding number 25A-0165G, Mr. Fetters, Ms. Dundas. We can. You might grab that microphone. Oh, you got it, or get it closer.
Can you hear me better now?
Yeah.
Excellent. Okay.
We could hear you, but just for the Commissioner Gelman and others.
Very reasonable. On April 11th, 2025, Public Service Company of Colorado, or PSCO, filed its application to revise depreciation rates for gas utility assets. 3 interventions were filed in the case: the intervention of trial staff, the Colorado Office of the Utility Consumer Advocate, or UCA, and the joint intervention of Western Resource Advocates and Sierra Club, or collectively WRA-SC. As part of their motion for permissive intervention, WRA-SC encouraged the Commission to consider consolidating this case with PSCO's 2025 Gas Infrastructure Plan, or GIP, consistent with Rule 1402. At the time of WRA-SC's intervention, the GIP had not yet been filed. Since then, it has been filed as proceeding number 25A-0220G. WRA-SC stated that the proceedings would likely contain interrelated issues and overlapping factors, such as net salvage value and the impact of depreciation rates on planned projects, and likens it to the consolidation of other proceedings, such as PSCO's distribution system plan and virtual power plant proceedings. In decision number C-25-0400, the Commission certified the application as complete, set the matter for hearing en banc, and granted the parties' interventions. It required PSCO to confer with the parties and file a proposed procedural schedule no later than May 30th, along with comments on the possibility of consolidating this depreciation proceeding with the 2025 GIP. On May 30th, PSCO did so, filing its report regarding procedural schedule consolidation and provisions for discovery. Subsequent to that filing, the Commission indicated that there were conflicts with the proposed hearing dates, and accordingly, PSCO filed a supplement to the report on June 6th with revised hearing dates along with a couple other date changes to match. I will refer to this as the June 6th supplement. In its report, PSCO indicates that UCA and WRASC support consolidation for the reasons set forth in WRASC's motion for permissive intervention. PSCO and trial staff, however, oppose consolidation. In addition to disagreeing with WRASC that the proceedings are substantially similar under Rule 1402, PSCO and trial staff assert that the GIP will be a complex proceeding with many issues, likely with additional interveners beyond those in this depreciation proceeding, and consolidating it with this proceeding would only increase the complexity. They also note that there is no overlap in company witnesses between the two proceedings, underscoring their different focuses, and that the timing is not aligned between the proceedings, and consolidation would likely result in delay of the resolution of this proceeding's issues. Disagreements on consolidation notwithstanding, the parties have agreed on a proposed procedural schedule in the event that this depreciation proceeding and the GIP are not consolidated. Under the proposed procedural schedule, as modified in the June 6 supplement, supplemental direct testimony would be filed on June 25th, answer testimony would be filed on July 22nd, rebuttal and cross-answer testimony would be filed on August 21st, corrections to pre-filed testimony and exhibits would be filed on September 5th. Any stipulation or settlement agreement would also be due on September 5th, with settlement testimony due on September 10th. Pre-hearing motions would be due on September 10th. The cross-examination matrix would be due September 16th. The hearing would be conducted on September 23rd, 24th, and 25th, plus September 26th if necessary, and statements of position would be due on October 14th. So the main decision point is whether to approve the consensus procedural schedule as modified in the June 6 supplement without consolidating, and I can pause for questions or have a recommendation.
We'd welcome your recommendation.
Advisors recommend the Commission approve the proposed procedural schedule as modified without consolidating this proceeding with the GIP. While there is some natural overlap between approved depreciation rates and the calculations that occur in the GIP is already promising to be an enormous case, and the addition of contested depreciation issues to that proceeding could make it even more complex and overwhelming. Advisors also agree with the timing concerns outlined in PSCO and trial staff's opposition to consolidation.
Commissioner Gelman.
I agree.
Commissioner Plant. I also agree. As do I, and that can be an ABC order.
Okay, just a couple other just cleanup items. One, given that the proposed procedural schedule extends beyond 120 days, I recommend you find it necessary to extend the statutory deadline by an additional 130 days, which would result in a new statutory deadline of January 28th, 2026.
Commissioner Gelman.
I agree.
Commissioner Plant. I also agree. As do I.
Thank you. And the filed report also indicates that discovery will be conducted according to the Commission's normal discovery rules, so we can put that into the decision along with standard decision language around remote hearing procedures.
That works for me. Commissioner Gelman.
I agree.
Commissioner Plant. I agree. Now it can be an ABC decision. So thank you, Mr. Fetters.
Sounds good. Thank you.
Mr. Davis, proceeding number 25A-0176G, Black Hills, Colorado gas strategic issues, demand side management.
Good morning, Commissioners. I'm Ron Davis of the Commission's advisory staff. This morning, I'd like to present Black Hills' application that addresses its gas demand side management plan for 2026 and 2027, including the Commission's consideration of related strategic issues. Black Hills states that the purpose of gas DSM is to reduce end-use natural gas consumption in a cost-effective manner, both to save money and to protect the environment by reducing emissions and air pollutants. By this application, Black Hills seeks to continue the successful programs that are currently being offered under its 2024 to 2025 gas DSM plan, with some minor changes to the design, incentives, delivery, and operating protocols for those programs. Changes to the program portfolio include an increase in the budget for the residential new construction program and the removal of the non-residential demand pilot. Black Hills further proposes to add a new pilot program called Moderate Income Weatherization. The aggregate budget for the 2-year plan is $12.3 million, or just over $6 million per year. As in past filings, Black Hills seeks approval of a financial bonus structure and the recovery of lost revenues. Black Hills proposes to maintain the existing demand-side management cost adjustment, or DSMCA, to collect the costs of DSM through statewide rates. Black Hills filed the application with supporting testimony of 3 witnesses. In response to the application, notices of intervention of right were filed by trial staff of the Commission, the Colorado Office of the Utility Consumer Advocate, and the Colorado Energy Office. Energy Outreach Colorado also filed a motion to intervene. Trial staff and UCA explicitly request a hearing on the application. Staff seeks to examine whether the proposed budget, saving targets, and programs are cost-effective and in the public interest, and to examine the benefit-cost results for the programs and measures proposed. Staff asks whether the plan aligns with Clean Heat Plan goals and Commission guidance on avoided costs, emission reductions, and methane leakage. Staff will further explore whether Black Hills sufficiently evaluated alternative DSM delivery approaches, non-pipeline alternatives, and beneficial electrification. And staff wants to look more into the costs of program and administration, whether the proposed program evaluation, monitoring, and verification is reasonable, and whether the program marketing proposals are reasonable. And staff asks whether the proposed cost recovery mechanisms and bonus structures make sense. Finally, staff asks whether the income qualified weatherization program leverages available external funding sources, whether the pilot is adequately supported for the moderate income weatherization pilot, and whether the filing complies with prior Commission rulings related to gas system planning, DSM, beneficial electrification, and cost allocation. Turning to UCA, in addition to reviewing the plan, the savings goals, and the participation goals and budgets, it will examine whether beneficial electrification should be added to the program, and if so, at what budget. And Energy Outreach Colorado explains that it has served as a third-party partner in Black Hills gas DSM efforts since 2012. EOC notes that in 2024, it assisted in helping Black Hills achieve 86% of the participation goal for single-family residences and 124% of its overall energy savings goals. Here, however, EOC raises a concern that is currently proposed. The income-qualified weatherization program's dollar per decatherm investment would be decreased from the currently approved plan. So the question before you is whether to set Black Hills DSM application for hearing.
Do you have a recommendation?
I could provide one, yes. I recommend that the Commission deem the application complete and refer the matter, including the interventions, to an administrative law judge by minute entry.
Commissioner Gelman.
Thanks, Mr. Davis. Yeah, I agree with your recommendation, especially given the Commission's calendar, but obviously there's an important link here to the company's statutory obligations under the Clean Heat Statute to reduce emissions. And so I'm really satisfied by the interventions that that's an issue that will be looked at significantly, but certainly a major issue, especially given that the largest single funding is for new construction. So hopefully that's an issue that will be thoroughly vetted and looked at throughout the proceeding.
Commissioner Plant? I agree, as do I. And Mr. Davis, while we got you sitting up there, you want to take proceeding number 24M-0173, the M docket with Excel's public service power shutoffs?
Sure, I'd happy to do that. What I'd like to present today is a recommendation to close a proceeding that was open last year, primarily because the issues the Commission had been examining in this M docket have been addressed by new reporting requirements for Public Service Company of Colorado and its implementation of its 2025 to 2027 wildfire mitigation plan and the associated public safety power shutoff plan. For context, last April, the Commission opened this miscellaneous proceeding to receive information from Public Service regarding the proactive and unplanned service outages from April 6th into April 7th. The proceeding initially served as a repository for comments from local governments, organizations, and customers affected by the outages, as well as from other interested persons. The proceeding was also used to collect information from public service regarding the public safety power shutoff event, including updates on improvements in progress to implementation and service restoration. Last October, by decision number C-24-755, the Commission closed the proceeding, but only in part. The Commission explained that it had begun reviewing an updated 2025 to 2027 wildfire mitigation plan and a new PSPS plan in proceeding 24A 296E, and accordingly would take no further action in this M docket. However, as an interim measure, the Commission required Public Service to continue filing bi-monthly report updates regarding any potential PSPS event that may occur. The Commission further stated that it appreciated the progress Public Service had been making in improving the processes and its commitment to continue work with emergency management personnel to improve coordination and communications. But to ensure progress continued throughout this interim period until a final decision was issued on the updated plans, the Commission adopted Public Service's proposal for developing and implementing improvements to its PSPS processes and reporting back to the Commission on that in bi-monthly reports. Now, of course, last week, the Commission deliberated on the unanimous and comprehensive settlement agreement reached in proceeding 24A 296E. The settlement agreement, approved orally by the Commission, will implement the reporting proposals contained in the company's rebuttal case, which was largely the same reporting requirements set forth in the company's direct case, but with certain enhancements explained by the company's witnesses in response to the answer testimony. The settlement agreement identifies 3 types of reports to be submitted. 1, final updates stemming from the bi-monthly reports initiated in this M docket. 2, annual reports that continue or expand upon the reporting that was initiated for wildfire mitigation plans back in the 2020 proceeding. And 3, 2 standalone reports addressing specific issues raised in the settlement agreement. I described much of this reporting last week when Mr. Fetters and I presented the settlement agreement for the wildfire mitigation plan and the new PSPS plan. I can provide some background on each of the reports I just mentioned, or the Commission can take up the decision points as those have been described to the public already. The question, though, is whether to fully close this M docket because a final written decision on the settlement agreement is pending now in 296E.
If you want to give us a recommendation, that'd be great.
Sure. I recommend that the Commission close this proceeding by minute entry. No further reporting is required to be received in this M docket. This docket was opened specifically to look at the April 2024 PSPS event. And the new and continuing reporting regarding the new plan and the new PSPS plan will be detailed fully in the written decision approving the settlement in 296E. So I don't think a written decision is needed, and this case can be now closed by minute entry.
Makes sense to me. Commissioner Gilman.
I agree.
Commissioner Plant, I also agree. As I already did, thanks, Mr. Davis.
Thank you.
Appreciate you. Proceeding number 25A-0188G, Atmos Energy Gas Hedging Program. Mr. Lemire.
Hey, good morning, Commissioners. Can you hear me okay?
We can.
Okay, great. Again, my name is Patrick Lemaire with your Economics and Financial Analysis section. Today, I'm presenting Atmos Energy Corporation's application seeking approval to extend its gas hedging program through October 31st, 2029. Atmos filed this application on May 5th, 2025, and no parties intervened during the intervention period. The current hedging program, previously approved by the Commission in proceeding number 22A-0300G, remains substantially unchanged. The company proposes to maintain the same annual hedging budget of $3.75 million as in the prior year. The company will primarily use financial hedging through NYMEX call options, complemented by physical hedging through gas storage withdrawals as its main strategy. These costs are fully recoverable via the gas cost adjustment mechanism, and this mechanism will be reviewed for its expenditures when presented to the Commission annually. Atmos requests retaining the full budget amount to provide necessary flexibility in addressing market volatility. Atmos targets hedging between 20% to 60% of normal winter requirements, consistent with past Commission approvals. Historically, Atmos's hedging program has produced varying year-to-year financial results, including notable gains and losses due to market fluctuations. Nevertheless, the cumulative strategy has resulted in a positive budget management, consistently operating below the approved budget level. The current hedging strategy has effectively balanced price stability and cost efficiency, successfully shielding customers from significant price volatility driven by unpredictable market conditions and weather events in the winter seasons. I will pause here for any questions or discussion, or I can proceed directly to staff's recommendation.
If you could give your recommendation, that'd be great.
Sure. Staff has reviewed Atmos's filing, including historical results, budget justifications, and its strategic market outlook. Given the demonstrated prudence in cost management, alignment with Commission-approved frameworks, and anticipated future market conditions, staff finds the proposed extension of the hedging program to be in the public interest. Staff thus recommends the Commission deem Atmos Energy's application complete and grant approval for the extension of its gas hedging program through October 31st, 2029, including maintaining the annual budget of $3.75 million as requested.
Commissioner Gilman.
I agree.
Commissioner Plant. I also agree. As do I, and I think that can be an ABC decision. So thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Commissioner Gilman, anything else before we adjourn?
Nothing additional. I'll see y'all at 1 o'clock.
Commissioner Plant. Nothing additional. Hope you feel better, Commissioner Gilman. Good to see everybody. Thanks. With that, we're adjourned. So you